Paris, over the years, numerous studies have shown that more than 90% of women in prison are survivors of gender-based violence and other forms of abuse. Survivors at Logan Correctional Center in Central Illinois are telling their stories through poems, monologues, and more in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Joining us now with more is Alexis Mansfield, a senior advisor with the Women's Justice Institute. Alexis, thank you for joining us, and tell us, what can viewers expect from the performances tomorrow?
I think that they can expect a really incredible performance full of immense talent and emotion and compassion for each other. I had the pleasure of watching it be filmed yesterday, and I was blown away by the words of the participants.
Now, as I just mentioned, over 90% of women in prison are survivors of gender-based violence. Explain, if you would, that link between surviving abuse and being impacted by the criminal legal system.
Absolutely. The Women's Justice Institute released a report earlier this year called Redefining the Narrative that looks at some of the pathways that both lead women to prison, as well as their rights and needs and what everybody should be entitled to. And one of those 5 major pathways is relationship safety, that when there is abuse, when there's gender-based violence, that is one of the factors that pushes people to incarceration, whether it's because of the lack of the safety in home, whether it's because of the choices people are forced to make because they're not safe, or whether it's because of the impact of trauma and how that can change people's mindsets and force them into situations that then can lead to them being criminalized.
Now, one of those performers, Sandra Brown, we know that she has written a poem called Enough, but she also spoke with us about what it's like for survivors to be in prison.
For so many women to sit with astronomical sentences because they lived through an experience, I consider it domestic violence on a national level, a state level, a legal level. It sends the message that women don't legally have the right to live unless the law deems their situations defendable.
Alexis, how can prison be re-traumatizing for survivors of gender-based violence?
I think when we don't recognize the unique factors that women face and look at gender-based and trauma-informed policies and practices, that can lead to re-traumatization, as well as to further incarceration and increasing our prison population. Things like using the same security classification system for men as for women, not recognizing the unique role of women as mothers and the primary caregivers of their children. Over 80% of women in IDOC, in the Illinois Department of Corrections, are mothers, and 70% of them were the primary caregivers of their children prior to incarceration. So things like making sure there's enough staff even to receive the mail that children send in, that there's enough phones so that mothers and children can be connected, and recognizing things like security training so that people are not yelling and reenacting the same abusive behaviors that often led women to prison and triggering that same response as the women experienced from their abusers.
And Alexis, there's also some legislation in the works that could impact incarcerated survivors. Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
And we're very excited. Representative Kelly Cassidy, as well as several members of the Illinois House Democratic Women's Caucus, are sponsoring some legislation coming up this session to look at the punitive responses that survivors of gender-based violence face. Some of this involves things like the child welfare system, but many of the things involve criminalizing survivors. So looking at creating a gender-based violence parole system, looking at the Crime Victim Compensation Act to make sure that we're recognizing victims wherever they are. Looking at things like accountability, where the theory of accountability really impacts both youth of color and survivors of gender-based violence at disproportionate numbers. And so that package will be looking at how we can address those laws and make changes so that survivors are not penalized because they've experienced abuse.
And in a few seconds before we let you go, this event comes as the Women's Justice Institute has released a report about redefining the narrative around what it means to be an incarcerated woman. How do you think this event works towards that goal?
I think that this event, written, directed, performed entirely by impacted survivors of gender-based violence, allows for people to have their voices heard. When we look at movements like the Me Too movement, we frequently forget about those people who are incarcerated and have also survived all these forms of gender-based violence. So this is allowing for these performers to redefine the narrative by performing, by sharing their voices, and hopefully changing some hearts and minds.
Okay, it's a good place to leave it. Alexis Manfield, thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
joining us.
Thank you.